Hey, beautiful souls, beautiful sunshine here with the R Holistic Killer, aka Sonia B. I am back with another prophetic message. Actually, I'm going to split this in two different sections because I received a message on the 13th as well as on the 14th. So anyway, I'm going to put them in two different messages, but because I like to keep the dates of whatever time or frame that I received that message, I want to keep them all the same. But anyway, I just want to say, if you're new to my channel, I just want to say welcome. And for those of you who are returning back, I want to say welcome back. Keep in mind that these energies could be happening right now at this present moment, or for some of you, it just depends on your location on the planet. It could be happening like a few days from now, it could be happening like a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and even up into like 6 months. Okay, so keep that in mind as well too. But it just, again, it depends on your location on the planet. You know, these energies could be reaching different people at different times in different phases in their life as well as in their journey, meaning like some of us are a little ahead than others, and some of us are a little behind, and some of us are just starting this journey. So it's going to affect it's going to affect everybody's energy differently and at different times. So keep that in mind as well too. So anyway, with all that being said, let's get right into the message. So the message that I received on the 13th, this was pertaining to, I actually saw it was like me and my current spouse, should I say, but we're separated, but me and my current spouse or whatever, we were in a car, we were driving somewhere, and it's like this baby hippo just kind of came, I don't know, it was like, it wasn't water in our car, but it just kind of came, you know, into our car. It was a baby hippo or whatever. But anyway, so I had actually looked up the meaning of hippos. I tried to look through my my animal oracle cards just to see if it was, the hippo was in there, but it wasn't. So where was it? So it says the hippopotamus symbols facts, a meanings of totem, spirit, and power animals. The hippopotamus is a strong symbol, one that teaches us courage and calmness in the midst of adversity, while the image of a charging hippo is anything but calm. Their resting state is one of complete alertness. Okay? So anyway, I don't know if anybody needed to hear that, but I just figured I would share that because sometimes animals do show up in my dream and they do have like hidden meanings to them. So I just wanted to share that. Anyway, so the second dream was about, I'm gonna need y'all to bear with me with this one because this one is gonna be, get your popcorn. It's gonna take a little minute, but anyway, I'm gonna try to get through as much as I can while trying to describe the details. So this is a situation of, God's gonna call some of you guys to a situation of, let me just give you a brief description real quick. So it was as if I was called or told to go somewhere in my dreams. So I just got up and I went to wherever it was that God told me to go. And in the dream, I ended up at this place. It was like a building. It was supposed to be like, I guess, a church, but it didn't really look like a church. But you know, churches nowadays don't really look like churches. But apparently they had families staying at this place that was supposed to be like a church. But so God had called me to go to the specific location. I didn't even know why I was going. I just totally went, got in a car, went, and just arrived there. And even when I arrived there, I still didn't even know what my mission was supposed to be. I just did what God told me to do, and I arrived. So when I showed up, for some particular reason, I must have been guided to go down the hall because I didn't see that part of the details, but I ended up in this room where I saw this kid who I knew, who I actually taught him when I was teaching at a private school. And he ran up to me. He didn't run, but he walked up to me really fast, like he remembered me. Like this was like years ago. He walked up to me, but he was still like, so this child is like around 7 years old. I don't know who needs to hear that. Somewhere around about that age, between 6 and 7 years of age. But anyway, and when I taught him during the time I was teaching, he was like about 3.5 going on 4 years old, I think it was. But anyway, so let's just say that he had remembered who I was. So in the dream, when I walked into the room that he was in, he walked up to me, he gave me a hug, and I gave him a hug back. And then I asked him, I said, well, where's your brother at? And then he was like, he said something as if he was around here somewhere. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I asked him, where was his mom at? And then he said, I can't remember exactly what he said. He said something, but I don't really remember the details of what he said. But then after that, he walked up to me again and he gave me another hug. And this time he really embraced me, you know, like you do one of those hugs like that. So I embraced him back because I obviously see that he really needed a hug. So I embraced him back. And then shortly after that, his mom had came walking into the room. Well, she came walking into the room and she didn't really have any like excitement on her face. It was just like, oh, I didn't know somebody was in here. But she just kept kind of doing what she was doing as if, you know, like somebody was there, but she was continuing on just how she felt or whatever. So I say all that to say, another girl came walking in behind her, and another girl came walking in behind her. This girl was light skinned. I'm sorry. When it shows up to me in a dream, I just have to kind of describe it. You know, sometimes, and let me let you guys know that now too. Sometimes it may show up with a specific race, a color of person. It is just letting me know what it is that I'm dealing with, you know, or whatever the case may be. So this girl showed up as a light-skinned girl. She was probably somewhere about the age of maybe 14 or 15, but I'm really getting like 15 or whatever. So she came walking in the door behind her, and she just kind of like had this like little, her body language said a whole lot without saying a whole lot. So be mindful of that too. That's a clue as well too. But the lady, I felt like it wasn't her daughter. I knew she had two sons, and even when I knew her, she had two sons. Now I don't know if this other girl who's like about 15 years old, I'm not sure if this is her maybe spouse's child, maybe a child prior to their marriage. I'm not quite sure, but I kind of get the feeling of that. But anyway, so hold on, I feel like a sneeze is coming on, y'all. Excuse me. But anyway, so and then we kind of went and sat down at a table. So I don't know if you guys know, like, what, I'm sure you do know. If you remember what like IHOP booths look like, the girl went and laid down like on a chair. She kind of leaned back like this on a chair or whatever. And it was like the booths that they have at IHOP. It was kind of like that, not the table, but just the booth. If you remember what the booth looks like and feels like when you go and sit down. So the girl went and sat down, and she didn't sit down. She went and laid down while the lady who I knew went and sat in a chair. And I didn't know the girl, but I just knew the lady's two sons that she had. So the girl went and laid down, but then I noticed that she was kind of like, she pulled her shirt up a little bit, like her belly was kind of showing, and it kind of gave me the indication. She didn't say anything, but I just kind of knew telepathically. I was like, I said she must be pregnant or whatever the case may be. So I say all that to say, and her stomach was kind of, it wasn't, you know how you like in the early stage. So this is a message for someone too. Somewhere probably maybe like the first trimester, maybe like two or 3 months or whatever the case may be. Keep that in mind too, where you have kind of like a little small baby bump or whatever. So the girl was leaned back, she pulled up her shirt a little bit, and then I realized, I said, okay, the first thing came to my mind, because she was just being like really, really kind of like rude, and I was trying to have a conversation with the adult. So it just got to the point that she was just like becoming a little, first of all, the conversation wasn't for her. So it was almost like she was being shut down by the spirit, is what I'm hearing. It was like spirit was using me to kind of shut her down in a sense, not in a rude way, but because she was like kind of interfering what needed to take place, which was healing that needed to take place, and she was interfering with that. And because it was like she kept kind of speaking on behalf of the woman, and she kept kind of speaking on behalf of her, and instead of letting her talk on her own. But anyway, so I got up from the chair and I leaned over the table, and I leaned over like this to the table, whatever the case may be. And I stood up and leaned over while holding on to the table, and I told her, I said, you seem very emotional. I said, I understand why. It's nothing more than your hormones talking to you, because I knew that she was pregnant, even though she didn't tell me, but I knew that she was. So at that moment, she got quiet, and as a matter of fact, she kind of faded out of the picture. So some of you guys may find yourself having to speak up because someone is probably kind of interfering with the situation of what God is trying to do. But anyway, so she faded away out of the dream, And I didn't see her anymore in the dream. So once I stood up to her and said what I needed to say to her, she got quiet and she just faded out of the scene. And then at this point, it was just me and the lady standing there, and I was talking to her. So I was just sitting there talking to her. She wasn't really saying much, but I found myself saying a whole lot. So I knew it was kind of awkward for me to just kind of show up and for me to be there. And it's almost like I felt like she didn't want me to see her in the state that she was in, because normally this lady who I knew, she was like, she carried herself in a particular manner, like very poised, or very graceful, and just kind of like in a calming type manner, and even kind of did stuff like volunteer and be like the president, because at the time when I was working at this school, she was like the president of like kind of like the president of the parent PTO or something like that, but was it her and her spouse? I can't remember if it was her and her spouse at the time, but anyway, nevertheless, she had a position of to where she kind of like she did things like that. But anyway, so I guess for me to see her in this state that she was in, even her hair, she was always on point with her clothes and her hair, whatever. And I'm not saying that her clothes were messy, because I know sometimes I come on here and I come from outside from just walking my dog, because sometimes I ain't got time to change clothes or whatever the case may be. I got things I have to do, so I have to keep them moving. And that's why I tell you guys, don't focus on what I'm looking like, just focus on the message that's coming through. But anyway, so it wasn't so much that her clothes were messed up, but I knew her hair was just a little out of order than what it normally is. And don't mind me, because I know sometimes mine is just out. It just gets shabby because I get the sweating and all that other stuff. But, anyway. But I say all that to say that, so I knew things was just a little off for her, and she was a little out of character than what I normally was used to seeing her in. So anyway, so she was sitting in a chair, and as she was sitting in the chair, I had just asked her, I said, well, where's your dog at? Because she kept telling me, and I forgot to mention this to you guys too, she kept telling me, I said, well, what is this place? And she said it's a camp, a church camp or something like that. I was like, a church camp? But I was like, they got adults staying here too? Now I know it was like the kids that stayed there, but she just kept saying church camp or whatever, like, I guess. But I knew her and her kids were kind of like living there in a sense, like some of their stuff was there. They were kind of somewhat living there, and I didn't get that they was just staying there for like a week of camp or whatever. But from what I had gotten, it was like I guess they quote unquote named it as like a camp, but it was like, I guess for moms going through situations who have kids, I guess kind of like giving them a place to stay. So take it how it resonates for, whether it be your situation or somebody close to you, with their situation. But anyway, so she kept just stating that it was a church camp. I said, oh, okay. So I just listened to her because I absolutely have no idea. I just figured that they just changed the name, like how they changed the name, like with school things where it was like family life, or now they may change it to something else, or, home economics, whatever. They just changed the name, but it's still the same thing, but they just changed the name to try to dress it up a little bit. But anyway, so with all that being said, so I asked her, I said, well, where's your dog at? And she was like, well, and her response to me was like some sort of type of military type like orders. I guess like if nobody's at the house, and I guess if her spouse is away, and something about an example like a DPT2 or something like that, some sort of code. I guess I kind of got like where if you're not at home and your spouse is away or something like that, like you have to take your dog here because the dog can't go with the spouse wherever it is that they at, and the dog couldn't go with her. Oh, excuse me. And the dog couldn't go with her to where she was at so-called camp. But anyway, so I was just asking about the dog because I was just trying to break up some of the tension. I didn't have any tension, but I just felt like, again, like she was just kind of going through, just really emotionless. Let me say that. And so then it just got to the point that I asked her, and I think I didn't really ask her about her husband, but it was almost like her and I was having a telepathic type conversation. Like I knew that her husband was kind of separated in a sense. from her, like, for whatever reasons. I don't know if it was due to military. I mean, when we was explaining about the dog and whatever the code was, it was kind of like a feel of like a military, but I kind of got like it wasn't like military ordered. Anyway, it was just weird, but I was just trying to figure out that part. But nevertheless, it's going to be a situation of somebody with their significant other find themselves in some sort of separation, whether it's due to military or whether it's just due just in general. So anyway, and then it just got to the point that somehow after her and I kind of just sitting there and I knew what was going on, it's like I knew psychically what was going on with her without her even telling me in regards to her husband. And that was the real reason why she was there at the church camp. So, but she, I guess, just didn't want to tell me. So it got to the point I got up out of my chair and I leaned over in her chair, and the chair had like two arms on the chair, kind of like how you rest your arms on the chair, like I'm doing right now. And it got to the point that I got up, and for some particular reason, I stood over her and I was leaning on the arm of the chairs and I was in her face, kind of like, this or whatever the case may be. And I basically told her, I started off leaning over in her face, kind of speaking to her as if I was being divinely guided to do so. And the next thing you know, I found myself take your hands and put your hands on the side of somebody's head like this, but except it's going this way when you're doing it to somebody else. Somebody putting their hands on the side of your head like this or whatever and saying a prayer for you. So I was leaning on the chair at first, leaning over to her, and then I started praying for her, and my hands were on both sides of her head. At first, I didn't realize why my hand was on both sides of her head. Then I realized, I said, oh, okay. Me having both of my hands on the side of her head, I was opening up her crown chakra in order for her to be able to have, more access, clear out the blockage so that she could have more communication from divine spirit of light. And I was pouring light into her by doing this. So it came off in the dream as I was sitting there praying for her. I started crying during the process of me saying a prayer for her. Like, I wasn't not that type of crying, just crying to the point like you start saying a prayer and you get so into your emotions and your feeling of, remember, empaths. And for those of you who understand what I'm talking about, especially if you are healers who are listening to me or whatever the case may be, and even if you're not healers right now and you're not even and have not come across that path just yet, let's just say that in due time you're gonna find yourself doing this, should I say, when being called to do so. But anyway, so it's like I felt the momentum building up in me as I was praying for her. I could feel her feeling. So therefore, I really got into prayer, and it's like I was praying, but she couldn't hear what I was saying as I was praying. The only thing she could hear is me crying, me wailing, me wailing. That's all I heard. Like, it's almost like God could hear what I was saying, but she could only hear me wailing. So I believe once she felt the tear drop from my eye into her lap, she knew I was sincere about where I was coming from. And then at that point, I found myself just holding the side of her head, and I was just speaking to her, and I said, God just wants you to let go, let go, let go, let go. And at that point in time, it went from that particular person who I knew when teaching at the private school, and then it shifted to another person. So it's like two different people's. Okay. So the lady who I was praying for the first time, she was the lady from when I was working at the private school. She was a parent also too, but her child was in my class. But again, she was the head of like the PTO for the parents, the school, or whatever the case may be. But it switched from me praying to her to me praying to Jada Pinkett Smith. So I say all that to say that as I was done praying with her, even though she was there first, it shifted. It didn't really shift. It's like she kind of shifted into Jada Pinkett Smith. So I say all that to say, and then when it switched over to Jada Pinkett Smith, I had my hands in the same position as I had the other lady's hand in position, as if I was opening up Jada Pinkett's, crown chakra as well too, so that she can have more access and clear out her blockages, so the divine spirit light can have more access to pour, energy into her. So basically, the first lady I told to let go, but when it came down to Jada Pinkett Smith, God was specifically saying, Jada, just let go. Just let go, Jada. Just let go. I remember me saying it 3 times. I was saying it telepathically, but that was God like communicating through me. It was like I was an intercessor. If you guys know what an intercessor is, somebody who prays on behalf of somebody else, someone who's like close to the Father. Not saying that we all not close to God, because we're all God's children, but it's the matter of there's some who are more closer to God than others, only because they have done the work, and only because they have done the work. So that's what makes it, them closer. So it's not that we don't have access, but and really in order to communicate, it was like I was being an intercessor, if I'm saying that right, intercessor on behalf, of me, God using me as a vessel to communicate through her. So I was interceding on her behalf, for God, and vice versa. But anyway, so yeah, God was just telling me, and I was like just telling her, just let go, Jada. Just let go. Just let go, Jada. So yeah, so I say all that to say that some of you guys are going to be called to step up. Oh, thank you, Spirit. Some of you guys are going to be called to step up to the plate, to go someplace that you don't know necessarily why you're being asked to go. You just, hopefully you just be obedient and go. But just know that you are under divine protection. I say that to say because Archangel Michael card fell out earlier as I was pre-shuffling these cards. So I just want to let you know that. But just know that God is going to ask you to go somewhere, and it's for a greater cause. It's for a cause to whatever it is that he's doing. It's for a greater cause. So again, if you being guided to get in your car and just go somewhere and to do something and to respond or to speak to someone, just do it. Just do it. Yeah, just do it. But I'm hearing, just be sure before you move. If you have to ask for a confirmation, just be sure, because I know sometimes, we got wolves that come in sheep clothing as well too. But I say all that to say, if you're sure for sure, and without a shadow of doubt that this is God leading you, then by all means, proceed on. If you're unsure and you're unwavering in your faith, ask for confirmation before doing so. Just, is what I'm hearing. Just ask for confirmation if you need to know before doing so. So anyway, that was it for that particular dream. And yeah, so just know that God is going to call you, some of you guys, to step up to the plate to, again, he's going to call you to go to certain locations and to pray for certain people. Yeah, it's almost like what I'm hearing is almost like being an angel in disguise. I was funny that I hear that, because I was just telling my daughter yesterday, I think we was having a conversation when we went out for a minute, and I basically told her that, sometimes we was talking about this one particular man who he doesn't stand on the corner, he sits on the corner, and he's been doing it for like years. I want to say like ever since I moved to this area. It'll be 12 years this year. And when we moved down to this area, he literally sits on a corner sometimes, and he holds up this sign saying something about he exposed the I guess he must have lost his job, because I guess some way, shape, or form he exposed the government and something like that. But I saw him yesterday as we were coming back in, and I hadn't seen him in a minute. But I noticed when he's on a corner, I don't see the panhandlers on the corner. And I was telling her that, because usually if you see the panhandlers on the corner, you don't see him on the corner. So I told my kids, I said, it's funny, because he could definitely be an angel like in disguise. And I say all that to say, because like I told him, I said, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about, be careful of who you entertaining, because sometimes you could be unawarely entertaining angels and you don't even know it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I say all that to say, if you don't have a shadow of doubt, and you know that God for sure is leading you and guiding you, you feel like it's a God force that's leading you and guiding you, by all means, just, he's sending you a place, because obviously somebody is in despair is what I'm hearing, who really needs a prayer at that moment. So yeah, but anyway, let me end it on that note for this video, and I am going to use this card real quick. Divine Divine Spirit, what messages do you want those to know who you are calling to pray for others, who you are calling to step up, to intercede on your behalf? What message do you want them to know that is of pure white light and pure unconditional love only? And I just want to hear, not hear, it's kind of like I hear somebody saying something about tarot. You guys, I just want to say this. This is not to discourage anybody in any sort of way, but if you guys have thought about getting tarot cards, please be mindful and consult God before you do so. I was being called to do this. It's not something I wanted to do because I saw other people doing it. I was just being called to do so. I say all that to say, when you're dealing with tarot cards, you can open up portals to things that you don't want in your life, and you got to know who you're communicating when dealing with it. And I say all that to say that, just be mindful of that. Yeah, just be mindful of that. Spirit spoke to me a while back when I was shuffling the cards, as if somebody was asking, kind of like, oh, ooh, I want to do that in a sense. And I just want to, what I'm hearing Spirit say is just be mindful, because sometimes that opens the doors to portals of, like I said, to darker forces, entities, and things that you don't want. So yeah, and then not only that, but and when those doors and portals are open, one could be communicating with something that is of a darker force rather than a light. So if that makes sense, so be mindful of that. If that's something that you so choose to want to do, consult God first and allow God to lead you and guide you in that situation, by all means. Thank you, Divine Spirit of Light. What message do you have for the collective? What message do you have for I will say this too, because what I'm hearing Spirit say is that's why sometimes I know there are a lot of tarot card readers out there, and what they do is their business. That's why I let you know I'm just here just to I'm using these cards as inspiration. Not that I'm reading tarot. It's kind of the same thing, but I'm using the cards as a confirmation of the message that I received, should I say. Thank you, Spirit. So with all that being said, you have to be mindful, even if you are watching people who read tarot, because you don't know what energy that they hold, should I say, what energy that they hold. Because everybody that's on YouTube is not of pure white light and pure unconditional love only. Let me just say that. I'm not sitting here tooting my horn, but I will definitely say, I come speaking the truth. I'm not coming to hide, cloak, or be like a wolf in sheep clothing for my own personal agenda. Let me say that. Anyway, Divine Spirit Light, what message do you have for the collective? What message says the pure white light, just love only, that you want the collective to know in regards to this being called to pray for others, being called to go on a mission? What? Going on a mission, travel. I just said that. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. So as I said before, you guys, I just do want you to know that you are being divinely supported in this situation. Only if you feel like this message resonates with you, because this message is not going to resonate with everybody. But anyway, so it says, travel. Your life purpose involves traveling. You drew this card as a validation of what you already knew, that your life work involves traveling. You may be called to be of service in faraway places, or it could be that a life-changing traveling experience will give you a breakthrough information about your divine purpose. Like a traveling minister, you'll bring blessings wherever you go. This card also speaks to movement in your life, with adventures, life-enhancing changes occurring for you now and in the immediate future. By letting go of the old and stepping into these changes, you gain the sense of meaning and fulfillment that you've desired. The former stagnation is replaced with a passion for new projects and relationships. A third meaning of this card is that your life purpose involves technology, especially with respect to computers and telecommunications. This could signal telecommuting where you work from home via computer, or it literally mean that your work involves computer programming, sales, and such. So anyway, with all that being said, I hope that message was helpful. So again, God is going to call some of you guys, so hopefully you answer the call. But anyway, I wish you all much love, much life, and I'll be back for the next message. Bye.